Welcome to Bears Nation Podcast. It is Wednesday, November 30th. And God, this game and this team stink, but we're going to talk about it anyway because that's what we're committed to doing here on this show. Myself, Jake Hassan, joined as always by Kevin Lapka. This is Bears Nation Podcast. And this is just going to be real, just Justin Fields, limited participant practice, but the Bears signed Tim Boyle, the legend off the Detroit Lions practice squad. So that does not imply good things for either he or Trevor Simeian or both. So you might not only not get the starter, you might not get the starter's backup. You might not even get QB2, which means, ladies and gentlemen, we might be in for a Nathan Peterman game on Sunday, which would really, man, what is there anything better in the world?
No, there's not. I thought we were going to get it last week too. I mean, the Bears did some typical Bears things, and we're saying that Simeon's got an oblique, and I don't know. At some point, I was like, is this mind games? Like, are they trying to fool with Robert Saleh, the Jets, to try to catch him off guard here? I have no idea. But as Shane M puts in the chat, someone bought a ticket today for $26,000 to go to the game at Soldier Field. $26,000, and then
that better have included equity in the Bears.
Yeah, they're now a partial owner of the franchise.
That's the only thing I can think of that would make buying a Bears ticket, a Bears-Packers ticket, which might not even have Aaron Rodgers either, who stinks this year anyway. That's the only thing I can think of that would make that worthwhile, that they get some kind of equity now. That's the only way.
It makes, unless they were buying like a couple of boxes, like at the United Club. It has to be
like sideline and
right. Your mic just cut out. But you got like clients coming to town. Like I don't know what it is, but crazy. 26,000. You're still muted. There, Jake's mic.
There we go. That's the only explanation. Yeah, you rented out the entire sideline. Like you're sitting on the bench. Like you're sitting on the bench.
Team. You're coaching the game. Actually, you're calling the plays.
You are. Yeah, you legitimately like that. The only thing that could feasibly make that an okay amount of money to spend on a Bears game, let alone a Bears-Packers game where you might not get either starting quarterback. You're probably definitely not getting at least one. That's the only thing, that you're sitting on the bench, you're getting equity, like you are, like you're wearing Virginia McCaskey's skin, like something outrageous. Like I nothing else makes sense. Whoever that person is that spent that amount of money on Bears tickets, more power to you. My Venmo is open. I could put that money to better use.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, before we get going here, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our listeners because, Spotify Wrapped came out today and we got all these statistics for us as a podcast. Listeners in 16 countries of Bears Nation Podcast. Top 5 were the United States, the United Kingdom, Spain, Denmark, and Belgium. So I don't know who the hell is listening to us from Belgium or Spain or Denmark, but we appreciate you guys. We were like a top 10% in most valid podcasts. Just a shout out to listeners who keep coming in week in, week out. Whether the Bears are terrible or good or wherever the state of the franchise is, you guys keep coming in here. We appreciate it. Mostly terrible. We appreciate it more than you know. Quick shout out to that. But yeah, man, Bears Packers. Let's break it down. Now, we're gonna talk Bears Jets at all. I know we didn't do a recap of that episode. I was a little bit busy, but I don't know if people wanted to hear about it anyway at the time.
Yeah, you get shredded by Mike. We could do a couple minutes to start. You get shredded by Mike White, who is decent. He takes the easy throws. He doesn't lose you the game. Kevin Lapka's texting me, Byron Pringle told you. And then 5 minutes later, everything else goes to hell. But let it be known that Byron Pringle did something useful for the first time all season in week 11. Woohoo. Or week 12, whatever the hell it is now. But we knew that was a possibility that game would go. We talked about it last week. We said we didn't think it was likely just because of the Jets' offense, and we thought they were going to run it and do conservative play calling, but they didn't. They threw it, and Mike White just absolutely ripped you to shreds. And that's really all there is to say about this. This defense is terrible. The offense is terrible without Fields. Then you lose Eddie Jackson, likely for the year, I would assume now as
Mm-hmm.
well. Does anyone really think he's coming back for Week 17 against Minnesota? No, he's probably
He's
done.
already on IR.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, does anyone
Oh,
think
yeah,
he's
yeah,
coming
yeah.
off IR for one game against the Vikings that won't matter? No, of course not. I'm sure there'll be surgery announced at some point, and then he'll be out for the season. Much like Darnell Mooney, now out for the season after he suffered an ankle injury, and he had to be have surgery now too. So things just going bad from bad to worse. Justin Fields still limited. I still think that they should hold him out this week. But yeah, I mean, the Jets game, it's another loss, exactly what you expect, but whatever. Who cares? Nothing matters.
I mean, is there anything to really learn from it? You know, you look at a game like that, and I think there are things to learn as far as, hey, maybe we understand now how good Justin Fields was over that stretch and how important he is to that offense, right? You know, they score 10 points, and yes, they are a good defense, but look, Justin put up, 29 against the Cowboys, putting up numbers against the Patriots defense. That's been great. You know, like you can't really use just the greatness of the Jets defense as, an argument as to, why Justin Fields wouldn't have succeeded against them. So I think that was a big takeaway for me. I know there were people after those first couple of drives, which were likely, scripted drives, thinking, oh my God, Trevor Simeian is better for this offense. Like, Jake, in training camp, when Kellen and I went to the Family Fest, the people behind us were literally like clamoring for Trevor Simeian to be the starter, like saying he's better and all this stuff, like legitimately, like not even joking. So the moment he threw the touchdown pass, I was like, here come the people who literally think that because he's a pocket passer and all this, he's better for this offense. He's a pure thrower of the ball. He's not a quote unquote running back because now everyone wants to, push that narrative on Justin Fields the same way they've done with Lamar Jackson. All that bullshit. But we've learned throughout the course of that game, as things started to go awry after the first few drives, that Justin Fields is this offense. He means everything to this offense, and they are abysmal without him. And it just goes to show how much he had been putting the team on his back over that time period. And one other thing, though, I'll say I'll learn from this game, and that's about it. That's all I got from Bears Jets after this is, there were a couple things that I saw Trevor Simeian do that I said, hey, you know what? Like, Simeian's been in the league for a longer amount of time, right? He is more of a pure pocket passer because he's probably one of the slowest players in the NFL, right? He's going to throw the ball because that's the only way he can move the team down the field. He's got to throw the ball. And what I noticed, and I am Scott in the chat was interacting with me on Twitter about this, what I saw from Simeian that I want Fields to do sometimes is just adopt that, hey, F it, Claypool's down there somewhere mentality. Or, hey, Fields, a lot of the time, I think he's a very good decision maker. He's really smart. And he doesn't want to fit. He always is waiting a lot of times for the guy to get open, which rightfully you should do. But in this offense with these skill players, guys aren't getting open that often. Like Chase Claypool is not the best separator, but he's comfortable saying, hey, I don't care if Sauce Gardner, one of the best cornerbacks in the league this year, is blanketed over me. If you just throw me the ball down the field, I'm going to do my best to come down with the catch because I'm a pure X receiver who's going to use my body. And that's exactly what the strengths of Chase Claypool are. And I think the reasons you weren't seeing Claypool have a little bit of success in the first couple of weeks is because I don't think Fields is either comfortable yet or willing to say, hey, I'm just going to trust a guy like you down the field to come down with a 30-yard catch. But you saw that play down the sideline. Simeian was just like, hey, blanket it. Like Sauce Gardner, great coverage. But, Chase Claypool, phenomenal ball tracker, comes down with the football. And I was like, hey, you know what? And same with the touchdown to Byron Pringle in the back of the end zone, completely blanketed, just made a play. Now, Fields has done that in certain situations and hasn't gotten the benefit of the doubt like Simeian did on Sunday. A lot of times we've seen throughout this year, you think about Pettis in the end zone against the Commanders, you think about a bunch of other plays. Fields does give his guys a chance, and they just didn't come down with it. And for some reason on Sunday against the Jets, Pringle and Claypool came down with it. But as you get more skilled players on this team in the offseason and in the draft, I think Fields will have to sort of adopt the mentality that, hey, at some point, I do just have to give my guy a one-on-one chance, on a 50 ball. And with a guy like Claypool, that's his specialty, you can afford to do that. So I'd like to see that from him going forward if he does play this week and beyond. Say, we always make that joke about Tua saying, F it, Tyreek Hill's down there somewhere, and Mahomes saying, F it, Kelsey's down there somewhere, and on and on and on. I think Fields can sort of do that with Claypool, given the type of receiver he is.
Right. It's kind of showing that maybe that's why we haven't seen Claypool as much as we wanted to. We talked about that last week. And it's maybe just because Justin Fields is relying on himself and his legs to just do it. I will say, to your earlier point about people clamoring for Trevor Simeian, I don't think that ever would have happened at this point. If it happened, if this had been 5-6 weeks ago, then maybe. But now I think people we're all on the same train that Justin Fields is your best quarterback. He's your best chance to be relevant again. So I don't think that would have happened. The three people or whoever that were at Family Fest, obviously, if I had to guess, their last name was Simeian as well. So anyway, moving on from that. Yeah, that Jets game was atrocious. Whatever. But you keep losing games, and you're still looking for the number 2 pick. So whatever. Even though you're still ahead by 1 loss for a couple teams that, and you still haven't taken your bye, but it's still you're on track. You're on track for a top 5 pick, probably a top 3 pick, which is good. All right, let's talk a little bit about this game coming up. Guys who we already know we're not going to see: Darnell Mooney, Eddie Jackson. Jaquan Brisker, again, did not practice today. I don't think Kyler Gordon did either. So that is looking real rough. Dane Cruikshank goes on IR too, one of your backup defensive backs too. So you're just losing guys left and right, and it's looking real bad. And even if Rodgers doesn't play, even if it's Jordan Love, the Packers still have enough guys, especially if Romeo Doubs plays, that they can still just absolutely dump truck you. Between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, who A.J. Dillon finally had his first good game of the season, really, last week, and then you had the emergence of Christian Watson, and Romeo Doubs is questionable this week. It's just, even if it's Jordan Love, all he has to do is get the ball in those guys' hands against this defense. Yeah, so Jaquan Brisker still did not practice. Larry Borum still did not practice. Chase Claypool was limited. Justin Fields was limited. Kyler Gordon still did not practice. Riley Reif did not practice. Trevor Simeian did not practice, which was to our original point. You might see Nathan Peterman, which yikes. And yeah, I mean, that's a lot of guys. It's a lot of guys who are key contributors to this defense, especially. And it might not be pretty.
It might not be pretty. And Shane M alludes to the fact in the chat that the Packers can also pass the Bears in all-time wins in the NFL history this Sunday. They're both at 786 as of this week. So there's a little something for them to play for.
Damn it. You know what this means? Do you know what this means?
Oh no, what does it mean?
That the bat phone in Ryan Poles' office is going to be ringing, and it's going to be George McCaskey or that old bitch Virginia, and it's going to be get Fields out there because he gives us a chance to win. Especially if Rodgers doesn't play, that phone's going to be ringing. That stupid orange phone on Poles' desk that he hopes never rings is going to ring, and it's going to be Fields has to play, especially if Rodgers is another, because they're going to want that win.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
Kevin, in your 20 plus years on this earth as a Bears fan, when have the McCaskies ever put the future of the franchise or anything regarding the franchise, the players' well-being, the fans' well-being, the future of the franchise at all, over immediate gratification? When have they ever done that? Ever. Especially when it comes to that stupid team in Green Bay.
You're right. Now, you have to consider whether George McCaskey was telling the truth this offseason when he said, hey, I'm removing myself from all football.
We're about to find out.
Not involved. We're about to find out. And but I also wouldn't say, hey, that is, if Justin Fields plays, that means that the McCaskeys were involved. I wouldn't jump to that conclusion. Justin Fields limited at practice today. Maybe had a chance to play last week if it was a more meaningful game, right? Probably could have played, just not worth it given the situation and given the
this isn't worth it either.
I'm not saying it is, but I wouldn't just jump to conclusions that, hey, Justin's like going to play. Oh, that must mean that they're rushing him out there because this means something to them. The other weird thing about this whole, this narrative, this whole, this isn't even like a record. It's not really a record because the record could be broken like a million times. Like it's going to continually be broken. Like, all right, so say the Packers win this week, but then they lose the next 2 weeks, and then we win a couple. Then guess what? We're back on top. Like, why? Who cares? Like, I know it's the first time they've ever passed us. Probably, I don't know if it's the first time they've ever passed us. Probably, I don't know. That would mean we had to start with a win, and they start. But it's been a long time. But like it doesn't matter that I don't think people really care that much. Like I don't even think the McCaskies care that much. Like,
Kevin, this dumbass family cares. I promise you that they care. Again, in your 20 plus years on this earth of being a Bears fan, we know that the McCaskey family cares about stupid shit like this. Time
True.
after time after time after time after time that they have shown that. And it's almost every turn that you can remember in the past, especially since we've been doing this podcast even. Like they will 100% do stupid shit like that. It's just who they are. It's how the Bears are as a franchise. It's how they always operated. It's how it has always been. That's why Ted Phillips was in power for so long. They care about themselves and how their image is. They do not care about it. Look at what George McCaskey said. What was this past offseason? Oh, well, we want to beat Green Bay at the end of the day. He said that before. Year to year. Oh, well, it's about beating Green Bay. This is their Super Bowl right now.
It is.
This is the Bears Super Bowl right now. It's in Hallis Hall right now, and in those offices, in George McCaskey's office, he has this circled because they 100%. Probably should have won that game in week 2 or 3, whatever the hell it was. And now they have this circled, and like, all right, well, it's a lost season. We're not going anywhere, so we got to win this game. And they're going to rush Fields out there. And we talked about this last week. Fields is not a guy who's going to hold himself out. You have to protect him from himself. He's a competitor. He's a leader. He wants to be out there playing for the guys, trying to win. He's not going to save him from himself. Somebody else has to do it. And I give credit to Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus for saying, yeah, everybody's going to be involved in this decision, and we're going to keep keeping an eye out for the future as well, not just about this right now. Because and this isn't a knock on Justin Fields either. That's great, and it will be a positive in the long run. But if George McCaskey walks down there and he says, hey, Justin, you feeling good? You feel like you play? Yeah, I can. All right, great. Love to hear it. See you out there on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be so stupid.
I mean, I don't know. The other thing I just thought about too is like, it almost pissed me off when you just brought that up about him saying at the end of that press conference that, hey, beat Green Bay. Like that's the priority. Like, no, that's not the priority. The priority is to win Super Bowls. And I understand the history of this rivalry, and that's great. And that's awesome. And it's good for ratings for them. I enjoy the rivalry. It would always be, the most storied rivalry in sports, in my opinion, but that's your priority. Like that's what you're selling out for. Like you're going to end your press conference with, and let's beat Green Bay. No, how about let's get to Arizona when the Super Bowl.
Because he's a fan. Because he's like
he is a fan. He said that.
Right. He is not a dude that has he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what he's doing.
He doesn't. And look, and that's why, again, you have to hope and pray that he's 100% truthful and serious when he says, hey, I'm removing myself from all football decisions. I mean, and I think part of the reason you saw Ryan Pace do the things he did in the past couple of years is because at that time the McCaskeys were in his ear, and you're wondering, well, why isn't Ryan Pace reloading on picks? Why aren't they going through this process? Why is it year after year, we're selling out? Because you're right, they do care about their image, and they don't want to suffer through a couple bad seasons, even if it means winning in the long run. Like they want to be relevant year after year after year. And that's fine, but you have to understand the process. It's not possible to start from square zero and be relevant year after year after year. You have to restart everything, build something. Then when you build, from the ground up, then you can be relevant year after year. The Bears now are in a position starting in 2023 where you could probably be relevant for 10 plus years. If Justin Fields is good enough, you'll probably be relevant for that long simply because of Justin Fields. The Chiefs are going to be relevant for 20 plus years running for as long as Patrick Mahomes is there. You know what I mean? But prior to Justin Fields being there, you're right. It was too much effort of, hey, let's just try to maybe be not embarrassing, right? Let's not be an embarrassing franchise. But guess what? You were still embarrassing. And this year, it's been embarrassing, but it's felt less embarrassing because the future of this franchise is in place, right? Like, and that's a positive. So let's just hope the McCaskeys are completely out of this now. Let's hope that, they've removed himself from football, decisions. And I will say, though, as we relate this back to the Packers game, back to Justin Fields, I do think he will play. I honestly do think he will play. Now, so part of the issue with the injury is there is no real risk for re-injury or further, hurting his shoulder, right? Like an AC joint sprain, it's not like, hey, a dislocation, you pop back in, guess what? It could dislocate again. No, it's not much worse can happen, right? So he's not at that much risk by going out there in comparison to other injuries, right? Like that. So that's a positive. Again, limited in practice today, recording this on Wednesday as we always do. But I do think there is a part of when Eberflus talked about the three things that are needed if Justin Fields wants to play, I think number one was clearance from the doctors. Number two was whether he feels healthy enough and willing to go out there and perform at his best. Like, do you think that part of that goes into this? Like, does Justin Fields care enough about this rivalry to be willing to say, hey, yeah, this is a game that I maybe can play in, but don't want to? Or is he like all in on this, saying, you know what? I saw what Rodgers did to the fan base last year. I was on the team. I saw how they've treated us in the past couple of games. Just, the interactions between Bears and Packers players. Obviously, it's always heated. Like, do you think in his brief time in Chicago, like that this rivalry means enough to him for him to put his body on the line in this game on Sunday?
1,000%. I mean,
really,
it's not even just the rivalry. I think he just wants to play. I think he's just a dude that wants to play, and he just wants to go out and try to win games. And that's rivalry be damned. I think just at a base level, he wants to be, and I'm sure it does. I'm sure he wants to go out there and actually get a win after the debacle that was their first meetup. 100%. I think that's the case. I'm about to sneeze.
Bless you. Anyway. You know what they say? I think if you say bless you before you sneeze, like typically it doesn't come.
Don't want it. Anyway, what your first point was, though, there's not a risk of re-injury, blah, 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 or worsening the injury. That might be fine and good. It's more for me, even if we take that at face value, 100% a fact. Okay, Justin Fields, if he plays, he will not be re-injured, or he will not get further injured. Fine. The thing is, the injury still happened, and he still said it's bothering him a significant amount. My worry then is that he goes and he changes his play and either A, develops worse mechanics or develops some kind of hitch in his mechanics that he's using to compensate for the injury, or B, he just doesn't play like how he was before, and then he plays badly, and then that's in his head, and then he's pressing, and slippery slope. Like, I'd rather he just sit out, wait till he's fully healthy so he could go back to the level of play he was at when the injury happened. Like, I'd much rather have that. This season doesn't mean anything. Who cares? You want to lose games. We spent all last week on this show talking about how you want Will Anderson because he's a unit-changing player. The same really goes for Jalen Carter, the tackle out of Alabama, because we saw how important it is to Ryan Poles and to Matt Eberflus to build this team in the trenches. And then when you tried to sign Larry Ogunjobi, and that obviously didn't work out, and look what happened, and that was supposed to be your focal point, and you didn't get it, and now your defense is a shit show. And so Jalen Carter, just as good, in my opinion. Maybe Anderson's like a tier or an echelon better, but Carter's a great choice there too. Absolutely. You're trying to lose games. You want to lose games. And even if you do end up at number 2, you don't think that the Lions are calling you, that the Colts are calling you, that the Rams are calling you, and then you can go down to 3 or 4 or 5 and get another pick at 16 or 13 or wherever, and then even more picks in the second or third. You want to lose games. I get it. Justin Fields is a prideful guy. He wants to win games. He wants to be out there for his dudes. And yes, if he was fully healthy and he can continue this ascent that we saw over the last couple months, then I'm all for it. Get him out there because we know this Bears team will find ways to lose anyway. The Miami game showed us that. The Falcons game showed us that. The Detroit game showed us that. They will find ways to lose. That is not Justin Fields' fault. That's great. But the fact of the matter is he's hurt. He says it hurts him significantly still. Great. He's limited to practice. He's gritting his teeth through it. Great. I'd rather him just sit instead of developing some kind of bad habits or some kind of hitch that we have to then hear about all next year and wait for him to work through to get back to the level of play that he was at prior to the injury. Just relax. It doesn't matter. It does not matter. Like you alluded to a couple minutes ago, next year is way more important. And lose the rest of the games. I do not care. Talk to me then in August, and we'll restart this whole conversation. But Justin Fields' health and his play and continuing the level of play that he was at prior to the injury is way more important, to your point, over the next 10 years and in the next 10 years than right now and beating the Packers or the Bills or the Eagles or the Vikings or the Lions. It does not matter.
It doesn't. And don't get me wrong. Would it be nice to win that game, eliminate the Packers at home with if we get to the situation where, it's 11:30 on Sunday, he's a game time decision, and they decide he plays at that moment, and he's going to play. Like, we know that at that point on Sunday. If that's the case, then I'm all in at that point. Like, if I'm being honest, like if he plays, then I'll be all in on them winning if he is playing, right? Because it would be great. Like, regardless of how you feel about the future and about draft positioning, which I am on board with now, don't get me wrong, there also is something to be said about, hey, finally getting over that hump. We talked all last year about the quote-unquote changing of the guard. If Justin Fields were to go out and have another phenomenal game, dethrone Aaron Rodgers, or, it's going to be Rodgers. He said on the McAfee show he's going to play. I assume it's going to be Rodgers.
Yeah, right? Because Aaron Rodgers is historically a 100% truth teller. Yeah.
Well, fair. But I assume he'll play. I assume he'll play. Eliminate them from the playoffs. Dethrone Aaron Rodgers at home in front of these fans that are paying $26,000 for tickets. I think I want to.
I need to know more about that. I demand more information about who this person is, what their motives are, why they're like.
They're a threat to society. They're a threat.
They're a danger to themselves and society.
They like. Recession's coming soon, and they're still spending $26K on, like, what are we doing here? But I want to see him play. And like, if he's going to play, I want to see him like give it his all. Like, again, another situation we talked about last week. Well, no, well, yeah, well. There are situations where people think, he plays, but he's cautious while he plays. No, he's either not playing at all, or he's playing and he's putting his fucking body on the line. He's busting his ass, right? Like that. You can't, like, you gain nothing from playing him, but getting the cautious version of Justin Fields. What does that get you? You get him the chance. It gets you nothing. You're probably not going to win the game in that sense. You're probably not going to watch a good product. He's probably not going to develop in any possible way.
Buddy, I got bad news. You're not watching a good product anyway.
Well, you might watch a good offensive product. I mean, the offensive product was good when Justin Fields was playing. It was a good offensive product. It was a top 10 offensive product for the past.
Yeah, but now you've lost your top wide receiver and your starting right tackle. Two of your starting tackles, actually.
It's
the starting tackle and the backup.
Regardless, we talked about this before. Justin Fields is the entertainment, and if he's on the field, it's more entertaining than anything we've seen for the past 20 years, right? And I think that's part of the reason why you see these fans continuing to buy tickets is, hey, people are selling out for that hope of Fields versus Rodgers. This is the magical Fields game where if the Bears do beat the Packers on Sunday, right? Assuming Fields plays, assuming they win, assuming they eliminate the Packers, assuming Fields outplays Rodgers, that's the game where if the Bears are a successful franchise for the next 10 years, you will go back to that game saying, hey, with everything against them, with Mooney out, with Reef and Borum potentially out, with Brisker and Gordon probably out, with absolutely nothing, with probably the worst starting 22 of any team in the NFL out on the field that Sunday, and to beat the Packers.
Let's do that real quick. Are they worse than the Texans?
With the injuries.
Right.
The
unit they're going to send out there on Sunday. Is it worse than the Texans? I think it is.
Yeah, they're worse than the Texans for sure with that unit they're sending out on Sunday. I mean, you can't blame them. You're missing, two offensive skill players. I don't know, man.
LA with their injuries, maybe?
Yeah, that's if you had the quarterback account.
Oh my God. That is so gross.
It's just the way you want it, though. This is just the way you wanted it.
But man,
and you're getting your wish.
Tough.
You're getting your wish. And so here, real quick.
Anyway, continue.
So I don't even remember where I was going with that. I have no idea.
You're saying if you do all this and then you go on to beat the Packers anyway, despite all the injuries and all
right. That's like Justin Fields' magnum opus, right? Like that is the game. Like even if he doesn't have 170 rushing yards, if he wins the game, because the past 4 weeks of narrative on national media is, hey, we've seen Justin Fields arrive, but guess what? He can't win games, which is a stupid and dumb narrative. But if you were to put that all away, throw the ball for like 280 yards and a couple of touchdowns and then ruin the narrative of him being a running quarterback and all that and win, like that's where it all comes together. The missing pieces have just been added to the puzzle where he puts it together, game-winning drive. And then it's like, where if you're successful for the next 10 years, you're going to remember, hey, week 13, Bears-Packers 2022, that's when we kind of knew that things would be good for this franchise going forward. So that's the only reason I think I would say where part of me does actually want Fields to play and Fields to win this game it's a moral thing. Does it mean anything more than that? No. But, it's something you can look back on as a team, as a unit, and be like, yo, we did that against this team with what we have right now. Like, I don't think they're going to win the game, but if that were to happen, you can say you beat that Packers team with the worst 20, we just determined it, the worst starting roster in the NFL. Like, that says a lot about your coaching staff. It says a lot about your quarterback and his ability to carry the team. And it says a lot about what your franchise will be going forward once you have healthy players and once you have, the money in the draft capital to improve that team. So that's the only thing that I would bank on as far as them if Fields plays. Like, what I'd be looking for a win.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely a possibility. Like, if you get into straight shootout mode, because again, this defense is stopping nobody. So let's say Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Oh, and you know what? AJ Dillon just announced a pregnancy too, so he's gonna have that future dad strength built up too. That always happens across sports. It's a thing. Look it up. But anyway, regardless, that those guys are good anyway. And with this defensive line, which we've talked about as a huge weakness, which is why you're hoping for Will Anderson or Jalen Carter once draft time comes around. And I promise eventually we'll stop talking about them. Hint, it's going to be after they're actually drafted. But anyway, those guys against this defensive front, which is non-existent. And even if it's Love, I mean, he still was able to find Christian Watson last week. Romeo Doubs is pretty good too. He was starting to play better before he got hurt. So, there's reason to believe that even Jordan Love, even if we think he's just average or below average, he can still do something against this defense. And you're going to have to get in a shootout. And it's going to be Justin Fields running wild and maybe getting Chase Claypool involved and definitely Cole Kmet. That's the only way you win this game if it's 38-35.
Yeah. Yes. Now, it's worth mentioning. All right, we talked about the Bears injuries. It is partially worth mentioning who is out for the Packers on Wednesday. Dave Bakhtiari did not participate. Knee. Elgton Jenkins did not participate. Obviously, Rodgers did not participate with that right thumb. Doesn't really need to participate anyway. It doesn't really matter for him. Darnell Savage also did not participate. So, going back to the offensive line, they're missing key guys there. And I'm sitting here about to say, well, if you put a little bit of pressure on Jordan Love, and cause a younger QB. I mean, he's not really that young anymore, but a guy who hasn't seen a lot of game reps into some tough situations, he might have some troubles. Guess what?
Does anyone remember the Chiefs game last year?
Yeah, well, right. But I have no faith that the Bears can do that. I have negative faith that the Bears are going to be able to put any pressure on Jordan Love, regardless of who's starting for the Packers offensive line.
You've had zero pass rush all year.
Do you know who the leading the sack leader for the Bears this year is? Do you know?
God.
Can you make a guess? If you're in the chat, guess who the sack leader for the Chicago Bears is this year.
I mean, it has to be Justin Jones.
Wrong.
He's the only. Is it
Wrong.
Travis Gibson?
Wrong.
No, it's a defensive back, isn't it?
It is.
God, is it Brisker?
It's Brisker.
God. Lord.
With 3. Khalil Mack had 3 in the opening game this year against the Chargers.
Right. So to my point, I mean, what I was going to say, Travis Gibson had his first QB hit in 7 weeks. Dominic Robinson had his first QB pressure or hit since week 1 since that 49ers game. Al-Kadi Muhammad had his first pressure and QB hit since week 10 or week 9, something like that. This defensive line is brutal. They're so bad.
It's disgusting. So that's why, I see, I was here, I'm going to look at the Packers injury report. And I was why do I even care? It's not going to change.
It does not matter.
It's not going to change anything.
Well, especially when you think about Aaron Jones, especially, and how you could just throw him in the flat and then he's just gone. Or you just throw him on a screen, he's just gone. Even if AJ Dillon is bottled up because he's a real north-south runner, he just kind of runs over you. Even if that's the case, and their offensive line doesn't help him out a little bit, Aaron Jones is still he's slippery.
Aaron Jones, very good at football.
Very good at football.
This is gonna be it's gonna be a wild game. I have no idea.
Will it?
No idea.
Will it?
I mean,
will it?
If Fields plays, it'll be a wild game. If Fields plays,
maybe
I think you just go God mode. But
that's the thing. He's still saying, today he said that injury is still significantly hurting him. He's still in significant pain. He said that himself, straight from the horse's mouth.
How about they get whatever they gave to Aaron Rodgers at halftime of the Bears-Packers game 2018, and give that to Justin Fields, whatever the hell that was. Let's get some of that to Fields immediately.
It's probably whatever the Liver King's been taking.
Yes, seriously, no shock. It's no surprise to anyone that guy was on steroids.
Yeah, that was just. Anyway,
real quick before we kind of break down whatever matchup you want to break down in this game or whatever bold predictions, whatever the fuck that's going to be. I did want to mention something for Bears fans to keep their eye on as far as draft positioning. So the crazy thing is, like, there are so many bad teams in the NFL this year. Like, if the Bears win on Sunday, I think they drop to 9th in the draft order.
It's so stupid,
or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's something crazy like that. Now, if they win, they lose out.
It's because you're only one loss ahead of the Rams, whose pick would go to Detroit, and Denver, whose pick would go to Seattle, as well as Carolina, New Orleans, whose pick would go to Philly, Arizona, and Green Bay. And and you haven't taken your bye yet too, which kind of makes things a little. But I mean, if you keep losing games, that you should be fine.
They need to change something, I think, about late buys. I really do.
Yeah, it's a wild.
Part of the reason the Bears injury report's stacking up. Like it, I mean, that is. I think they did their best to give us the quote mini bye with the Thursday game and the Monday game back with Commanders, and then Patriots Monday Night Football, that 11-day period. But man, like you've just seen guys get battered, and think about it. If the Bears had a Week 10 bye, Fields probably gets a couple weeks of rest. His legs aren't as tired. Like considering the quarterback that we have. An early bye in the next couple years, not an early bye, but a an average bye, week 11, week 10, week 9 is going to be huge. Back to my original point about draft order. What you guys need to all be looking for is keep your eye on two teams, the Seattle Seahawks and the Detroit Lions, and what those teams do. I know we don't want to say this, but you want the Lions to keep winning. And I'll tell you why. Because if the Lions keep winning, they're going to be at a point probably around 13, 11, 10, 9, somewhere up there.
13 right now.
That's 13?
Yep.
Now, that's a team that needs a quarterback, right? Obviously. They're you could argue that that's their big piece, that's their one piece that they're away. Yep. And would you trade down with a division rival for them to get a quarterback? It's something that is I'm not sure. But if you were, say, at 3, you're looking at that point. You're looking for teams to trade down with, and the reason why you want to think about the Seahawks,
because
Lions,
theoretically, if you're at 3, the Lions are probably at 2 because of the Rams pick.
Do they own the Rams pick?
Yes, the Rams owe in the Stafford trade.
Oh, that's what it is.
So
yeah, I got it. Okay. And then
you need the Rams and the Lions really to win. But
right.
Although somebody said in the chat, G Station said the Broncos and the Rams need to win a game. Which, I mean, the Raiders are in that division, so it's likely, and then they face each other as well. So at least one of them will win one game because the Rams and the Broncos play each other later this year.
Well, yeah, and I also I don't know if G Station 7 is kind of on the same page. This is where I was going with this point, is the reason why those two teams are on my mind is because if you were to trade down with one of those teams, that guarantees you getting a first-round pick this year, right? Mm-hmm. If you were, say, Atlanta, who's currently at 15, yeah, they don't have a first-round pick, an extra one this year to give you. You'd get one in 2024. But think about a situation where, hey, you trade down with Detroit at 13 or something, and you get, or, say somehow you get their extra first round pick. And then somehow, some way, you're still in the top 7. You take Will Anderson. And then guess what? Because you traded with one of those teams in the first round still, you end up around 16, 17. And then you get Jordan Addison or Jack Smith and Jigba. And there's a possibility you get both of those guys in the same draft if the trades work out that way. So that's like I view it that way because I'm an optimist, and I do believe that the window opens next year. And if you can get both of those guys in the same draft, that's amazing. But it's just something for Bears fans to keep an eye on there, if that's possible for them to get 2 first round picks 2023 this year to get 2 franchise changing players. You hope in the same round.
Yeah, so the teams that have 2 first-round picks this year will be as follows: Detroit, Seattle, and Philadelphia. I think that's it, unless I'm reading this wrong. No, I'm not. Right. So that's it. And
Philly ain't trading up,
I mean, if they really like someone, like one of, maybe they really like Will Anderson, or maybe they really like Pete Skoronsky, and maybe, they're not going to take a quarterback, but maybe they really, really like someone else. Or you trade down to 7 or something, and then Philadelphia jumps you there or something. They're like, there's options. Obviously, yes, the ideal scenario here is you trade down, you're at 2, and you're looking at either taking Anderson or you're just fielding calls to move to maybe still the top like 15, you would hope, as well as another pick later in the round. And then maybe if you have two first round picks as well with yours, you could trade up again. I mean, there's obviously options, but the ideal scenario is you're at 2, you trade down to like 4, or you still stay in the top 5 because somebody's that desperate to get CJ Stroud, assuming Bryce Young goes number 1 overall, of course. And then you still get either Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, and then you're able to take a Jackson Smith and Jigba or Jordan Addison in the teens. And then you go from there, and then bang, bang, bang. Your window is still wide open next year, and you have less things to worry about and add more playmakers. I don't know. Now, of course, as Bears fans, we've come to expect nothing. Do not expect the ideal scenario, because in more chances than not, you will not get it. So, and we just had the most likely one a couple years ago with Justin Fields. So we're probably cursed for the next 7 to get the non-ideal scenario. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, we know people don't like to talk about losing, so we'll move on from the draft talk a little bit. Although, I mean, the chat is they're kind of into it, but
dude, because that's all anyone cares about, bro. Like that like everyone's all in on draft season.
We all know where we're at collectively. Like we're all in the same spot. We are all on the same train to nowhere right now, which actually the train is hopefully to the top of the NFL draft in 2023, but I digress. Okay. Cheese Station 7 doesn't make a bad point. Find a way to trade with the Saints, and then you could get Marvin Harrison Jr. next year. But, however, you're hoping to not be a bad team in 2024, which is the thing. Unless you have the Saints pick, and you're that they'll be bad. But I think the Saints...
He'll be a top 7 pick. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a top 7 pick.
So. Maybe top 5. He's really, really good. Anyway, all right, Kevin, let's do some, I guess, bold predictions. We'll just call them predictions for this game. And then I have something that I want to end with that's non-football related, but we'll go through our predictions and game score prediction as well.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's interesting to me, actually. One thing I wanted to bring up is I think the Bears are completely out on Trestan Ebner. I don't think he's on the team next year. I really don't.
What is this comment from Twitch?
This is a
title is a disgrace. Aaron Rodgers quit on his team. Yeah, we know. How can you compare Fields and Rodgers right now, making me angry? When did we compare Fields and Rodgers?
We didn't.
We didn't make a direct comparison.
This is out of nowhere.
This is wild. It's so funny, though. It's very funny. What was I going to say, though? I don't think we compared Fields and Rodgers at all. All we said was Rodgers might not play, and then talked about... We talked more about Jordan Love than Aaron Rodgers, I feel like.
I think we did. Wrong chat. Did you join the wrong chat?
I don't know. Stick around, though. It's funny.
Yeah, stick around.
Keep them coming. I'll talk about
yeah, keep them coming. He said my fault.
It's all good, man. It was very, I mean, hey, it gives us content to talk about, so that's funny.
It does. We need it. Boy, do we need it.
All right, so your point about Trestan Ebner.
Yeah, he's not going to be on the team next year. This is unfortunately...
wasn't he undrafted?
No, he was... Dude, no, not undrafted. Dude was like a 6th rounder. He might have been a 5th rounder. I can't remember. They had so many late-round picks last year. I should 100% know what round Trestan Ebner was taken in. Draft slot, Trestan Ebner, Google Scouting Report team, 203rd overall pick, 6th round. So, if I'm being honest, I didn't love Ebner coming out of the draft. Sure, he's a great guy, but I think that was one of the bigger misses. Like, we've seen teams hit late. Like, obviously, every year I talk about every episode. Like, Isaiah Pacheco's RB1 for the Chiefs, 6th rounder. Maybe he might have been a 5th rounder or a 7th rounder. I don't remember, but he was a late rounder. But it was reflective of me last week that they're out on him. Darrington Evans came in, played every snap in replacement of Trestan Ebner, and looked good. Like, Darrington Evans played better than Trestan Ebner has all year. Like, he looked great. Shout out to Darrington Evans, who's also actually a Twitch streamer. So maybe Darrington Evans is in here. Maybe Darrington Evans is Dow Winders sing H. I don't know. But just struck me that they're out on him. But it kind of leads into my bold prediction. Like, Dave Montgomery is really, really good. I love having him on the team, and I think once again he'll go off against the Packers. The Packers had a lot of trouble stopping the run last week against the Eagles, and it wasn't just Miles Sanders. It was Jalen Hurts, who had 100 rushing yards in the first quarter, but Miles Sanders 2 touchdowns. I think this is a big game for Dave Montgomery. He's been accumulating a lot of yards, hasn't really gotten the end zone. I think Dave Montgomery actually finds a way to score twice in this game, and puts up over 100 total yards in this game. And real quick, as it pertains to Dave Montgomery, I'm going to ask you this. Once I give you this list of the 2023 free agent running back class, then you tell me if the Bears are going to keep Dave Montgomery, okay? Mm-hmm. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, Tony Pollard, who I fucking love Tony Pollard. Dave Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Jamal Williams, Damian Harris, Jeff Wilson Jr., Devin Singletary, Raheem Mostert, Rashad Penny. Knowing that the running back class is that deep, does that sort of tell you that, hey, Montgomery knows the market for him isn't going to be as big. Someone's not going to be willing to pay him typical money because of how stacked the class is. Does he take a pay cut in that situation? Do they keep him around? I just thought that was interesting.
Maybe. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, it's not.
But I mean, I think the Bears really like Khalil Herbert too, and maybe they like one of those guys. I mean, if anything, I love Tony Pollard on this team.
I want Tony Pollard
just because of who he is as a receiver too. Like, I would love Tony Pollard on this team.
Give me Tony Pollard now.
Obviously, don't spend money on running backs more than you need to. But I mean, nobody is going to be mad if David Montgomery comes back to this team. But I mean, that's a bridge we'll cross when we get there. My bold prediction, it's not Bears related. I just think Christian Watson's going to cook in this game. And he's been unbelievable over the last couple of weeks, has had a real coming out party. His offensive rookie of the year numbers have just come crashing down. He's one of the top favorites now. He's been unreal. Jordan Love showed last week that he has no problem throwing to Christian Watson, and maybe they have some kind of chemistry going. So I think Christian Watson's going to have over 100 yards and at least 1 touchdown going into this game. Well, not going into this game, after this game is over, because he's just that good in this defense, as we talked about, is terrible.
Yeah, it's been interesting. So the thing about Christian Watson coming out of the draft was I knew he wasn't a great route runner. His route tree was sort of limited at the time. But I think he's come in here and, you're not seeing Christian Watson route guys up, right? You're seeing the Packers do a real good job of getting him in space, and then boom, he's off to the races. And this is exactly what he did in college at North Dakota State. And the reason I wasn't so high on him is because I didn't think that he could do it in the NFL against not he was playing FCS guys. Imagine playing FBS guys, and imagine playing NFL players. Like, I didn't think he was going to be able to just run away from guys, but that guy's freaking fast.
Here we are.
And if Matt LaFleur is out here just finding ways to scheme him open, he's super dangerous in open space. So against this defense, with how bad, not how even bad the guys are in man-to-man, but like for some reason every single opponent seems to just find the open hole in the Bears defense. There's guys wide open every single week, and if Christian Watson is wide open in that zone, finds the soft spot, he's going to be a threat to score every time because he's that quick. So that kind of annoyed the hell out of me, that he did the things that he did last week, and he's kind of turned it on recently. But and it's frustrating. It's be honest, like I wasn't that high on George Pickens, but George Pickens is fucking good. And I'm starting to feel a little bit more upset that they didn't take him. And I like Kyler Gordon. I think Kyler Gordon is going to develop into be a very good player. He hasn't shown it right now, but cornerbacks sometimes have an interesting and weird start to their career. But, that guy's ball.
We want the immediate gratification. Especially with what
2020, but
especially with what Velus Jones Jr. has turned out to be, or rather is not turned.
Correct.
All right, score prediction. I just think this is not going to go well. I'm assuming that Fields is not going to play, and more I'm just manifesting that, and I'm hoping that they keep him safe and they just say sit your ass down and wait until after the bye, and then we'll circle back to this. I think this game's going to be like 28-10. Like, I don't think you're scoring more than 10 points again. I'll say officially 31-10 Bears lose.
Well, here, I want you to do it. So, okay. So let's say that there are, I put this in the description of the video. There's like a billion quarterback matchup possibilities in this game. So I need you to give me a different score prediction given each different matchup.
Oh,
so
God.
say let's start with Fields Rodgers. Fields Rodgers, both are playing. What's your score prediction in that scenario?
Bears lose 35-28.
Okay. Fields Love.
Bears win 28-24.
I mean, that's not outrageous of a scenario. That could happen. Fields could play and Love could play. So you're pretty damn close to thinking this is a win. All right, last one. Wait, two more. Tim Boyle versus Aaron Rodgers.
What was it? 31? No, if it's Rodgers, 38-3.
Peterman versus Rodgers. Same. Doesn't move the needle for you.
Yeah, 38-6.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I'll give 3 extra points for Peterman, I guess.
he's deserving of that. You know why he's deserving of that? Because I just need people to know this. Okay. I don't think there are people in the show who are familiar with Tim Boyle's college stats. Jake, are you familiar with them?
We've done it before on the show, but read them off.
I think we've done it before because I believe the Bears played the Lions with Tim Boyle as quarterback.
Yes.
The fact that this man is in the NFL is unbelievable. Tim Boyle in 2013 threw for 621 yards in 5 games, 0 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. 2014 as a sophomore, 9 games, 82 attempts. He must have been the backup in an.
Oh, you know why? You know why?
Why?
It's because he's 6'4", 240. Like, he's enormous.
I don't care.
It's the physical. But we know NFL teams will take flyers on guys with physical traits like that.
2014, 335 yards passing on 82 attempts, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. 2015, 60 attempts, 281 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. This guy threw 1 touchdown in his college career, and he's in the NFL over guys in what? I watch guys in college each week. I don't care. I don't care what school they're from. I don't care if they're from JUCO, D3. I'll take one of them over Tim Boyle. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable that this guy keeps getting money in the NFL. This guy is fleecing every GM. He just fleeced Ryan Poles.
It's a dream. He's living the dream. You do the least amount of work possible for the most amount of money.
Like,
he's living the dream.
This is the NFL version of like your kid like knowing the boss, and your dad knowing the boss and you getting the job. Like, this is the NFL version of that. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the NFL version like of you on your 5th grade basketball team. You know you're the best player on the team. The kid the coach's son is the worst player on the team, but he's getting all the minutes. This is the NFL version of that. Unbelievable. Anyway,
Kevin, this sounds like it's a little personal story. Do you need to?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. But my dad was the coach for my baseball team, so I guess but I was also good. I wasn't shit. But I gotta put that out there. I was a baller. I was hitting dingers every game. I was going crazy.
Give your score prediction.
All right. If it's Fields Rodgers, I think it's super close, but the Bears just aren't talented enough to win that game. I think it's still not as high scoring as you'd think. I think it's like 27-24. If it's Boyle Rodgers, it's Packers like 31-7. And if it's Love,
do you think they get a touchdown with Tim Boyle?
Dave Montgomery can do enough on a drive. Get some good field position. Dave Montgomery can do enough. Did you think they were going to get a touchdown with Simeian against the Jets last week? No.
Simeian at least has won games in the NFL.
Simeian's played a lot. When they
Simeian was on a playoff team.
He was on a playoff team. Isn't that unbelievable?
He started for a playoff team.
He did. Wow.
Multiple times, I think.
Fields Love, I'll take, not multiple times. There's no way. Fields Love, I'll take. If you took the Bears, then what am I going to sit here and not take the Bears in that situation? Yeah, I'll take the Bears if Fields plays Love. I mean, come on. I don't. Jordan Love looked fine last week, but I'm not going to pick him to win the game. I'll take the Bears to win in that scenario. So we'll have to wait to post the graphic until like 10 minutes before the game, which is typically what I do because I wake up late on Sundays to see who plays and to see how our score predictions change due to that. So my God, I apologize to all the listeners and all the viewers that you had to endure 54 minutes of talk about this team, because I know it's hard. I mean, I do. Like, you don't want to hear about it. Trust me, some of our numbers are down this year because people don't give a shit. People don't care about the Bears right now. So here we are. We're doing God's work, breaking down Bears Packers, breaking down Tim Boyle for you. That's what we're doing here at Bears Nation Podcast. But I see one scenario the Bears win. I think it's if Jordan Love plays against Justin Fields. That's all I'll go with.
Yeah, that's probably it. All right, real quick, I want to end this. Happy Spotify Rap Day to everyone who celebrates. It's just very funny that we co-host a show together and we cannot have more opposite Spotify raps. It's very funny. It's very, very funny. Like Kevin's is Drake, Logic, like a bunch of hip hop rap, and it's just mine was my top artist was the guy that composed Game of Thrones. And my second one was John Williams, who has composed like Harry Potter and other really famous movies. And my third one was State Champs, which is just a punk band from New York. And even if you took the composers out, it would have just been like these pop punk or punk rock bands. Like it's very, very funny, and it makes me laugh a lot.
I saw that and I was like, who the F are these people, man? What is up with you and listening to soundtracks, man? Like, is that what you like? Is it just the gym, or like, do you just be steady listening to Game of Thrones soundtracks like when you're chilling?
I'll listen. So I have a playlist of the Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings soundtracks all in one. And I'll listen to it on the train, or like if I'm just like walking down the street or something. So yeah, I mean, I like it. They're great. Just try it.
All power to you, but that is funny, man. I mean, do you even know a single? You ever listened to Drake before, Jake? Like,
I've listened. Okay, easy. I'm still alive. I'm still 25. Like, I still like.
You still live on planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
I went to college at a Big Ten school. Like, I still know popular music. It's just not my thing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's just I'm built different. That's all. All right. That wraps up this episode of Bears Nation Podcast. Thank you guys for listening and for watching. You are the best, truly, for listening to this, whatever this was. Appreciate it. We'll be back on Monday to break down the Bears and Packers game, what we saw, if we saw Justin Fields, if we saw Trevor Simeian, if we saw Aaron Rodgers, if we saw Tim Boyle, if we saw whoever. We'll break it down on Monday. So be back here, Bears Nation Podcast, for another breakdown. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. And as always, bear down.